What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another edition of the Apex, the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, it's me and it's Jumba. This man is traveled now. He has traveled the world. He's traveled many different places.
I'm international,
especially
baby.
For this podcast, he's an international
worldwide.
man, but he's home now.
Call me
and
Pitbull.
He just returns from Saudi Arabia, where he went to the Esports World Cup. And I felt like the best way to record and put a finishing period on this entire Esports World Cup saga, all of the podcasts we've had up to this, is to have Jumba on the show, talk a little bit about what went down, some of his experiences while he was there, and then get into all of the other stuff as well. First of all, I need to ask this question. I need to get this out of the way, Jumba. Did you raw dog the flight like me and Enoch asked?
No, I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. And I don't know.
Did you try it? Did you think about it at least?
Yeah, no, I definitely did. I had a 2-hour flight that I was thinking of, and even the screen in front of me broke, but I did it on that one. I don't know if does sleeping through a flight count as raw dogging it? No, right? Because you slept through it.
Yeah, I feel like experienced raw doggers would say that that's like a cop out.
No, it is.
But I would let that slide. I would be like, at least you weren't, on your phone or something.
Because my 14-hour flight on the way back, I almost did, but that's because I was on 2 hours of sleep. My layover was from 2 a.m. to 8 a.m. And then and I had to stay awake in the airport to make sure I didn't miss anything like that. So 2 hours of sleep, then plane into that, and I hadn't seen the sun in 21 hours because my first flight was at 6. Didn't see the sun. I landed, didn't see the sun, and then my plane followed the sun not rising, so I didn't see the sun for 20 hours. It is crazy trippy experience that 21 hours of travel there. And I slept almost the entire flight, but on and off, very broken to the point that I didn't feel rested at all. I got home and slept another 12 hours.
There you go.
Yeah.
Perfect. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess before we get into all of this stuff, we're going to get into finals. We're going to get into who won. We're going to get into all the storylines from that finals day. But I think I wanted to start off first with just your overall experience at Esports World Cup. We got to see you on the screen a few times. That was awesome. The event overall, it looked great from the broadcast, but you were actually there in person. I guess what I'm asking for here is just a quick little rundown, a breakdown of how Esports World Cup was from your perspective, because you were there, you were the man in the arena.
Yeah, you know what? Maybe this will be if Connor's up to it, the first time where I got some videos I took that I'll never post. So maybe we could get Connor to just toss some footage on the YouTube version as I talk about some of this stuff, because I did some walkthroughs of the event and everything. And it was, I explained this in one of those interviews, which, by the way, those are so cool. We could get into those in a bit too, the opportunity that I got to do those. But I just explained it as big, grand. It was kind of like a festival. It's something that unfortunately no esport event, I think, in North America or Europe will ever be. At least not until this becomes something absolutely massive esports where it is profitable. And the reason why is because there's just not the money. But let's start from the hotel. I get into the hotel and it is the biggest hotel you've ever witnessed. And I get this whole tour and everything like that. And there's just a massive players lounge with arcade machines, air hockey, ping pong. There's 10 PS5s. There's, I don't know, maybe 14 PC setups, just juiced, maxed out PC setups, lounges, and everything like that, just to chill. It was very nice. And it was called the Player Lounge, but everyone was allowed to pretty much chill in there. There was a talent lounge for casters and stuff like that, which not many people hung out in. But again, it was just another area with another 20 PCs that you could install whatever you wanted on it so that you could game the whole time. Because there are some people who stay there for 2-3 weeks at a time, right?
Played up.
Dan Gaskin onset, played up. Dan Gaskin onset, they're going to be there for I think 2 weeks in total, 3 weeks in total. So last day, Dan was installing Destiny and Apex on a couple of the PCs so he could game and shit like that. So yeah, it was crazy. I'll see. I actually don't even know if it took any videos of the Players Lounge. But that was pretty wild. If you want to know what it looks like, when Jayhawk was doing the interviews on day one, that's the Players Lounge. So you could see them in the background. There's I know there's a clip of ZZ playing ping pong and stuff like that. So you can check it in there. You can see what it looked like. It was pretty cool. You know, the fact that we had like unlimited, I don't know, energy drinks, soda, water, snacks, Kit Kats. The event was sponsored by Kit Kats. You know, it just like it felt like I was a very important person. I was a VIP. I had a person on call for me at all times. That was crazy. It was a crazy experience to live like that for a bit. um, and then the actual event, like again, yeah, I'll put the video on, but like it was just huge. I didn't see it all. I thought I saw the entire grounds. I didn't see it all. That's how big it was. I didn't notice that there's like 50% of the place that I never walked through. I didn't know until the last day that I missed all that, and then we had to leave. But like, yeah, there's like 4 or 5 different arenas. Actually, there's 4 at the front, 2. Yeah, so there's like 6 different arenas where they have games running at all times and broadcasts running. Crazy player lounges, again with all the bells and whistles and gaming things to just chill. There is Falcons headquarters is on grounds there. Um, I didn't get to go in there. I just never got the chance. There's also another place for like Falcons. They had like all um games that you would have when you go to like a what's it called? Like a theme park or something like that, right? They had all those games and everything. And then they had like every American fast food restaurant you could ever think of. That was like probably the most trippy thing. I went across the world and I was eating American fast food. I wanted chicken shawarma, man. Like I was looking for
Yeah,
some
you're eating the
authentic.
same shit.
I was looking for yeah, I was looking for a authentic chicken shawarma. I had Shake Shack twice and then Cane's twice. Yeah, that was pretty funny. And they had Tim Hortons there. Do you know what Tim Hortons is?
Dude, I've always wanted to go to Tim Hortons, but obviously I can't. But like, I've always wanted to try it.
There is like barely any Tim Hortons in the United States, and there was I saw 3 in there in Saudi Arabia. As a Canadian, that was
That's
confusing.
crazy, dude.
Also, Tim
That's
Hortons
crazy,
isn't that
dude.
special. You don't really want to try it.
I know, but it's just like it's like when you grow up watching hockey in the States, you see it on every ad,
I
and you're just like,
guess,
I
yeah.
want to try this so bad.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, I don't know how to describe it.
I mean,
but
I've never
yeah.
had Dunkin' Donuts, so
I had we had one that went out of business in town, so I don't know. It's more of an East Coast thing, Dunkin' Donuts.
Okay.
Yeah,
So yeah,
but
it was
okay.
really grand. Well, like you know, if you're listening to the audio version, I'm gonna Connor to toss those videos in there. I suggest you watch through on that, because it was just pretty cool. I mean, and they even do like not while we were there, but they do concerts and stuff. One of the weeks, Gunna was down there apparently doing a concert. So I don't know. That's what I heard. So
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, yeah. So the event, it looked great from what we could see, and from what it sounds like, it also was great in person. The actual Apex Legends, though, was, in my opinion, some of the best Apex that we have ever seen, and it had a lot of the old factors from some of the early days of Apex. Obviously, we didn't have the POI draft. We had teams that were, going to the spots that they had to send in, I think, in a Discord. And then sometimes there was going to be those contests when the games first started. And it felt good, but it felt good in a different way because it was a completely different format. The first day felt very stressful because you already know that one team is going to be eliminated off the first day. Same thing with the second day. And then you're watching that 9th position. You're watching that pole position right there. And you're like, oh my God, there's so many people so close to this thing. And I guess I wanted to go through the group stage real fast and see if you had any insight on some of these teams, some of these players, what they were going through in that group stage, because I know for at least for the Falcons day, we already knew who was winning that day pretty early on. We could tell that this was going to go over to Team Falcons. But in that 9th position, you had DSG just outside of it. You had Crazy Raccoons just outside of it, Guild Esports just outside of it. And then they're also playing 10 games in a lot of these sets, which is something that, typically what we're playing 8-game sets at a typical LAN, correct? It's like for
yeah,
those group stages,
8 games only
8
had
games.
champs. Typically, it's 6 actually.
6. Okay, exactly. So it was just a complete different set. Do you have any insight on that group stage and potentially what some of those other players and teams were going through on that day?
Yeah. I actually have a funny thing even about Falcons, like and like everyone thinking like, oh, they were guaranteed first, which I mean they did close out. What I will say is that's pretty cool to hear. That you thought I've heard so much positive things from viewers thinking that like it was some of the best Apex they watched. Sometimes it's almost like being there was hard to like engage. Like I missed the first couple games because I was doing some stuff, and then I'll say this, EWC nailed a lot of things. They did a lot of things really good. The only thing that was kind of lackluster for me was the actual experience for the fans in the stage. I don't blame EWC too much of that. It's just like not as many people, I guess, knew Apex down there. There was mostly just Falcons fans. And so because of that, there wasn't like as much as like you remember LA, the atmosphere. No matter who won, everyone was hyped up about the games. Yeah, it didn't have like that atmosphere. That being said, I guess group stages weren't as electric at LA either. It wasn't until bracket stage and finals where the crowd went crazy. So maybe it's a little bit similar, but yeah, like so like yeah, this was still just like the interviewer, like the venue, like if they like kind of increase how many seats were there because there wasn't a lot of seats, and allow people to have better viewing of like the stage because the stage was amazing. Um, I think the event would have been tier A1, but like so it was hard for me to like gauge how good the games were because I was having troubles like enjoying the stands at first. But then after like I kept seeing everyone who's at home like really locked in saying they loved it. I think the format added to that a lot. I still am a big fan of the ALGS format. If they want to take influence for a few things from EWC that they think could improve it for sure, I don't think we get rid of the ALGS format. By the way, I've seen a lot of people talk about
Yeah.
that. Yeah, it's just I don't think.
No, so I think this is really cool in the way that I think if they were able to keep ALGS exactly what it is and they keep EWC exactly what it is, I think that's perfect.
Yeah,
Like
I think they
have two different
coexist.
ways to play Apex, have two different tournaments in which it ends with a different result, right? Cuz like this was awesome. I related it back to when we first started the podcast series of like high tier soccer,
Yeah,
which is like you play for your, let's say you're a team in England, you play for your League Cup. You also have the FA Cup, which is like all the teams in England all play for that, no matter what, how good you are, how bad you are, doesn't really matter. You all play for that. Then you also, if you're good enough, you get into the Champions League, and all those different leagues have like a slight different rule set, different format, different trophy, all that kind of stuff, and it all ends up going into the trophy case no matter what. I like the fact that there's a different way to play this esport, and both ways prove that this esport fucking rules.
yeah,
And that's the best part is
yeah.
like the esport is so good, it doesn't matter how you play it. It fucking rules. So that's what I loved about it. I think they should both just stay the way they are, you know?
Yeah, we need a mix up. Like, it does get a little bit stale if we always see the same thing, but it's like EWC had this cutthroat, ruthless format that like brought the anxiety, brought the intensity, and made it like really like fun to watch, but it was like very much more for the viewer. Whereas like ALGS Matchpoint always has that intensity, and so does the bracket stage, but like way more competitive integrity, I think, in that format, in my opinion, of making sure the finals gonna have the best players in there. So that's why. But let's get into the group stages. Let's talk about it. And so because of that ability to be eliminated, but not even just about being eliminated, the fact that it was just top 9 go to finals, and then that LCQ bracket being top 2 go to finals and 18 teams eliminated, it had all those players anxious. I know it did. Like I was talking around and like I was asking players and I was saying like, how you feeling? And usually you get the typical response like, oh yeah, we're feeling good. We're like locked in. And a lot of them did say they're like, yeah, I'm good. I'm dude. We've been practicing. We're feeling as best as possible. But the funny thing is like there was always a but that LCQ bracket's kind of crazy. Like there's always a but, and like you could tell like oh wait, there's like really anxiety. Like even amongst like these top teams, they were all a little bit worried about like what's gonna happen if they don't make that top 9, because it's not like if you go to losers bracket where it's like okay, well we got 2 chances to get top 10 and then we could go through. It's like if we don't make this, our chances of getting to the finals are literally slim to none, right? Um, like to the point that like I won't really through this I'm not gonna ever like really name too many team names, and the reason why is because like when I talk to these guys, if they're gonna say stuff to me, I don't want to put them on blast, but I will talk about Falcons because A1, they like were the best team at the tournament, so what I say about them doesn't really even matter, and two, they said a lot of stuff publicly too because they had so many interviews, and so Hal does talk about it. I think it was in an interview with We the People on day one that like they were weren't feeling like the greatest going in to the games. And sure enough, yeah, like that day I had run into Zero at lunch. I was like, yo, dude, I was like, how's it going? Like, how you guys ready for today? I'm like, everyone's waiting to see what you guys got going on. He goes, yeah, he goes, not sure how I'm feeling. He goes, things have been pretty shit. He goes, we lost all of our TDMs. He goes, we've been TDMing the worst I've ever TDM'd in the last 3 weeks. It's not been this bad maybe in the last 2 years. Because the last time he goes, I think I was this bad. He goes, was actually at champs. He goes, and you know what happened there? He goes, so yeah, not feeling good. And then like I heard like through someone else, he was telling him that he's like, oh yeah, I was talking to I think Zach Mazer. And Zach Major told me that he said that Zero told him, he goes, I'm either getting first or 15th today. He goes like it's no in between. And I guess he was right. There was no in between. They started off a little shaky. First 3 games, they only placed like 6th and 5th or something. Like what was it? Like, yeah, first game 10th, second game 6th, third game 7th. So we're like, oh, what's going on with the super team? And then obviously we know game 4 they win, game 5 they win, game 6 second, game 7 they win, game 8 second, and then after they drop off. Well, those guys suck in the last 2 games, huh?
Terrible.
Right,
Awful.
right. But,
Awful stuff.
yeah, no, I even talked to Privacy, and he's like, Privacy is their analyst for anyone that doesn't know. Super cool dude, absolutely intelligent dude, and he's like, yeah, if we get our maps tomorrow, if we get KC Broken Moon, he goes, I'm pretty confident we'll be fine. He goes, because we are by far the best team on Kings Canyon. I almost called it Kansas City. He goes, we are by far the best team on Kings Canyon. He goes, so I guarantee we'll win there. And sure enough, they won there. Hal swayed that vote very, very strategically on Twitter. Just told everyone what to vote for, and it happened. So, yeah. So that's day one. That's day one. I don't know. Any thoughts on day one? Anything you wanted to touch?
Yeah, I think day one, I think I was really rooting for DSG. I've been very public about how much I wanted to see this DSG team do well, and I still think that they did okay. You did see some of that design where he was breaking through and you could tell he was getting upset. And the only reason I know this is because there was like a quick little pan after they died once and you could see him yelling, like looking over at QZer and at Enemy. It just the one thing we're getting with DSG right now is a little bit of inconsistency. And what we aren't seeing with DSG that we have in the past is like DSG design teams, sometimes they can get a little inconsistent at times, but a lot of times those teams can find ways to win games. This DSG roster has not been doing well at closing out games that they're like deep into, which like with Timmy, they seem to be able to, at least in game 6, they could always close one out. They just haven't been able to do that. And I think this was the day that they were using Wraith, and we'll get into the losers day where they decided to swap that up. But I do think Wraith played a part in this, and I think they had a conversation about it going into the next bracket, and they made the switch over to Pathfinder. They did way better, in my opinion, on that. We'll get to that in a second. But yeah, this Wraith day, I was really rooting for them. I was also rooting heavily for Guild Esports, and they made it in at 12th, right behind DSG. And I did a regional final watch party with B-Rad from APAC South. We met him down there at LAN. He's a good guy. And he talked to me about Guild Esports on that stream. And ever since then, I've been keeping like a close eye on them. So I was watching on this day to see if they would make it. Obviously, they were just a few points out as well. That entire 9th position, I felt like, to me, that was the part that I was most excited for. I didn't really care who won. I didn't really care who got 20th. I really wanted to see who would fit into the 9th slot. Like, that was basically what I was watching for the entire time.
And that 9th spot was pretty crazy. How many times it flipped over in that final game. You guys had the points on screen, right? In that game?
Yes.
Okay.
And also, like, this was how crazy it was. Design is the last one alive.
Yeah.
QZer, I think, makes a terrible, like, he tries to cross or something. I can't get the full screen, so I don't know exactly what happens, but he goes down. Enemy goes down right after. Design's on a rock. And I'm thinking, the only way he can get past this team right now is if he has an evac. He doesn't have an evac. And the Storm's on his ass. Like, he needs to go. And I'm like, I guess if he were to 1v3 this, maybe. and then he fucking 1v3s it. It
As
was one
soon
of the
as
craziest parts I've ever seen in my life. And they slid into the 9th spot, and then he dies, and I'm like, holy shit, that could be enough. But then obviously X-Solo Lasers, and also GHS, they did like really well in that final game. So they both jumped over.
Yeah, they both jumped over. Even Crazy Raccoon jumped over. Like, he was in 9th very briefly, but there's just those 3 teams still alive that could jump him, and they just needed placement points, and they got it. Yeah, it was 1v3 on Twisted Minds of all teams, a team that did absolutely insane on day 1 too. Once I saw him hit the sniper shot on Strafing Flame and killed him, I was actually, from his position and just the fact controller player Havoc, I was like, oh, he's actually got this. Like, he can win this easily. And we were going pretty insane. I had that, like, so we were 10 minutes ahead, or there was a 10-minute delay, right? So we would see things. So I didn't do it much other than the first day, but I would like clip things and then I would just have it loaded to like tweet as it happened. So like I'd turn on the stream, and as soon as I saw it happen, I'd like press the send button. I had that TSG clip loaded up for Twitter, because that was a crazy 1v3. Now if he fucking got through, one of the best moments of the entire tournament. Still was, but like it probably would have been like up there in like top 5, maybe, I don't know, after a freaking match point final, maybe it falls down to top 10 moments of the tournament. But it was a crazy way to start off day 1 and such like that. Yeah. Okay, one thing I wanted to talk about real quick there, a funny thing with Twisted Minds, in one of those interviews I did, the guy, so his name's Quick Shot, absolute legendary commentator in League of Legends that I was unaware of, by the way. At first, when they told me you're going to do an interview with Quick Shot, I thought Quick Shot was the name of the building. Then after, I thought Quick Shot was a company. Then after, I'm like, let me Google this, and I found out that this guy is like legendary status caster when it comes to League. I was like, oh shit. I did like a bunch of research at that point. Super cool guy. Like amazing, like when it came to do the interview and everything like that. And like I was so proud that I got to be able to kind of like talk Apex and try to like spread Apex to like a newer audience and such like that. So that was pretty cool too. In all that, he asked me who kind of like my top 3 were. I fumbled. My top 3 were obviously Falcons, but then he said, other than Falcons, who are your top 3 going to be? And it was supposed to be Mizuchi, Fnatic, Twisted Minds. I like a lot was going on when I got the like call for the interview. Like I did get it in advance, but like I said, when I got all confused about who Quick Shot was in that moment, I froze up, and not that SSG is a bad team, not that they're a bad team. I didn't have them as in my top 3 to win, right? And I kind of like repeated kind of echo chamber stuff when I just think, okay, who's a good team? And I dropped SSG, which again, I wouldn't be upset with, even though they didn't do great. I wouldn't be upset with, because they were typically supposed to be a good team. I wanted to say Twisted Minds. Well, I posted that on Twitter after. And then so I have to like say what I said my top 3 were. So in the tweet, I just put SSG, Fnatic, Mizuchi were my top 3 outside Falcons. And Strafing Flame sees it, and that guy was not happy that I didn't say Twisted Minds. He was not happy. I feel like I fumbled. He was upset. Last day of the event, I see him. I go, "What up, dude? Go to dab him up. I'm talking to girls. He's like, nah. He's like, I'm not dabbing you up." He goes, "You didn't say Twisted Minds."
What a guy.
It's on
Dude,
me.
I fucking
It's
love
on me.
that guy, dude.
It's on me.
I fucking love that
So
guy.
here's
dude.
the rest of the story, though. I responded, like, so he actually put an angry face on my tweet when I didn't put him in top 3. And I responded to him. I said, I fumbled. I literally had you in my notes. And like, I showed him my notes, which say SSG and Fnatic are top teams. Twisted Minds have been the top of the region for the last year and came top 5 at the last 2 lands, and they have easy flashback for this land. I meant to talk with them. I actually had notes of them, not just SSG and Fnatic are top teams. I had detailed notes of why I thought they could win. I fumbled. I didn't drop their name. I apologize sincerely. Guess what? I got a fucking jersey curse. People should know this already. You don't want me to say your name. I said SSG Fnatic. I said SSG Fnatic. Go look at their placements. Those 2 teams didn't hit match point. They didn't hit match point, bro. There was
13 games.
13 teams that hit match point, and SSG Fnatic didn't. And guess what? Wyatt, wait, you should know the jerseys I have.
I know damn well.
I have an SSG jersey. I have a DSG jersey. I have an Alliance jersey. Can you guess which jersey I didn't bring to Saudi Arabia?
Alliance.
Bro. Alliance. I'm telling you.
100%.
So I was trying to get this guy to understand you don't want me to say it. And I'll talk about finals and we'll go back to this Twisted Alliance thing after an interview I did in finals. But I'm telling you, like, but I feel bad. Because like I didn't want to support my homie. We did clear it up. He went to go give me a props.
You're wearing the hat right now.
I am wearing the hat. The hat was sick, but he like
hat's sick as fuck.
At the end of that conversation, he went to give me a props. I made him dap me up. So I hope we're on good terms now.
Listen, you want to talk about, by the way, shout out to you for bringing up championship celebrations on the main broadcast.
Yeah.
You want to talk about a fucking championship celebration
right there, that team right
it's
there.
That guy
right there.
He gyrates in his chair, he's screaming, he's kicking around, he's just going nutso.
He tried to pick up Player K, he that didn't work because Player K's taller than him.
He deserves it too, because we'll get to the play he made in finals. But yeah, that's a championship celebration guy right there. That is a championship celebration guy, big time.
Yeah, we'll talk about that interview on finals day. But okay, so that was day one. I know I'm taking a long time here. I got a lot to talk about. Like, it was a crazy event. I got a lot of behind the scenes things, even stuff that happened with me that I think is just funny that I'll never share outside this podcast because I don't have the platform to. So I hope
you wanna kick off Group B with my own jersey curse.
Sure, let's do it.
Let's talk about the fact that the entire time at LA, I was like, I need to get this Riddle Order shirt. Riddle Order is my team now. Riddle Order.
We'll blame Wig.
Riddle Order is my team now. And then Chris, my co-host on Grab My Banner, he gets a Riddle Order jersey. I get the Riddle Order shirt. It's in my closet right now. I'm like, dude, Riddle, badass. I love Riddle so much. I'm saying Rid win the entire time. And then we get into the Group B. I'm like, oh, dude, Riddle's in here. Bounce back season, dead last.
Man, that's funny.
I don't think they ever were not in dead last. Like they were. I mean, there were because there was a crazy set of games in this day. But Riddle was consistently at the bottom. They were bad. And then dude, poor Riddle. They just get dead last. Their key's about to get crushed. Weeps walks over, immediately interviews him. It was like, hey, how do you feel? You guys did terrible today. And he doesn't say that word for word, but basically the interview is like, you guys aren't going to go on. And then he's like, hand over your key to the key master. And he's like, you gotta hand over their key. I felt so bad, dude.
The Riddle guy just puts his hand out like this, like reaching for the key. He reaches for the key.
Dude, poor Riddle, bro.
I will say on
jersey curse
on Weep's behalf, he did not want to do those interviews. So if you notice,
100%.
If you notice on the first day, there wasn't one, right? And it's because he was stalling so hard to not do the interview, and he kept saying, can I just interview someone who just made it? Like, I don't know if he wanted to interview a Cholos Lays or something. He's like, please, but the whole thing of EWC is that they gotta crush that key, so they need that interview, right? And and something happened, they forgot the key, and he was stalling, and they didn't do it on the first day. But he really didn't want to do it. That's why actually, if you see the interview, he doesn't say you did terrible. I know you're kidding there, but he instead goes,
no, I'm just being
he keeps going. He's like, okay, he's like, you guys are three of the best players in the world. You just came up short today. He's like, crowd, make some noise for three of the best players in the world. And funny enough, the crowd, considering it was not that big that day because there was no Falcons, they actually made some noise for them, so that was respectful. Yeah, right. But
no, dude, I feel bad for Weeps in that moment because you could tell he doesn't want to do it. He's just bro, this is the last thing I want to do. They didn't even interview the winning team first. They go straight to the team that got dead last.
Yeah,
I just felt so bad for him. I was like, oh my god, dude, poor Riddle, poor Weeps. That whole situation was messed up, and then you got to. Oh, well, hand over your key. And it's like, oh, fuck. Yeah. But it is kind of the whole point of there was a reason why the keys were such a big deal. Yeah,
it was. It's ruthless.
It's cutthroat. It was ruthless. To the rest of the lobby, though, there was obviously Alliance wins. They take first place on that. But there was a lot of very surprising teams. And probably the biggest storyline coming out of this day was there was 3 games in a row where there was a team in 20th, a team in 18th, and a team in 19th, all won back to back to back. I'm pretty sure it was DMS, LGD, and who was it else? There was another team.
Could have been Dragons, maybe?
That was low. Maybe Dragons.
Sure. Yeah, because it looks
all
Dragons,
those teams were in danger
terrible.
of getting, going to the relegation round. And then for Dragons, in Dragons' case, I think it wasn't Dragons. I think it was actually, might have been Oh, you know who it was? I
Well,
think it
Dragons
was
won the last
Weibo.
game.
They won the last game. They went from 16th to 6th, but there was a stretch where it was 3 games in a row where the team was severely outside, and then all of a sudden they made like a way
Yeah.
better push. I think DMS and LGD were the only 2 teams of those 3 to get in.
Oh, okay.
But that was the story of the day. The story of the day was, in day 1 we got Falcons, they were winning, they were sponging up all those points. Day 2, it was just a toss-up. No, like we knew that Alliance was going to win, but the rest of the lobby was very, very close up until the very end. And it was a way bigger, crazier day.
The way everyone talked about this lobby, even I want to say it was Zero that said this to me. But the way everyone talked about this lobby is that like, so the first day was going to be like hard to win, but easy to qual. And the second day was going to be easy to win, but hard to qual. And the reason to say easy to win is just because it was so close that like one team like having a good day was probably going to win that, but like it's hard to qual because it was going to be so close, so even out. Whereas like the first day it was hard to win because Falcons was there, like Twisted Minds, even like really good team. But it's gonna be easy to qual because like the bottom half teams probably weren't that good. You could predict pretty easily who didn't make it. And if I look at Group A, like yeah, like there's only like a couple teams that like really snuck into the top 9 that you maybe wouldn't expect. Maybe someone like Icholos Laser makes it in over a team like NIP or Guild, for example, right? Or even Crazy Raccoon. But yeah, so like that was like the thing. Like it was such a balanced lobby. There was still like some standout performances for me, like ExoClan. Like I'm not sure how familiar you are with like the whole story there. Like Passion UA couldn't get to the tournament. ExoClan steps in, fucking dropped second place. Like they were going crazy. E8 Bleed, not surprising for me in the sense that like, oh, I didn't think that these players couldn't do good, like because it's Noct, Zach, and then Lou, and like Zach did really good at Last Land. I don't want to like put down Slayer and Luxford or anything like that, but I will be honest, I don't think the E8 team was that strong this split. I think Shuby, Zach, Zapto were like significantly better of a trio together. And that's why they did so well at LAN. Here, you put them with Noct, you put them with Lou, 2 like really good players that they were able to mesh well together. Not surprising that their placement did well. I was surprised because they came together in such a short period of time and then played that well, right?
Yeah.
Mizuchi 4th had me gassed up because I was talking about Mizuchi the entire time. I did an interview, I think this day for Mizuchi, and I was talking about them. And so like first time where I'm talking about a team that I'm like, yeah, this team's gonna do good, and they didn't do good in the split this pro league. So I was like, I'm on board with these guys. I think they're gonna do good, and they were. So I was like, holy shit, for once I don't sound like I'm stupid and I'm just spitballing stuff. I'm like, I actually have reasons why I think they're decent. Yeah, so it was really balanced. Some teams showed up, some teams didn't. Like Space Station 18th is kind of crazy. TSM not qualing is like a little unfortunate. I'd have to go back and watch through this day why they didn't perform. And then their LCQ, I could talk about their LCQ day, why they didn't perform. I got some info there. But yeah, I don't really have too much more like insight on this day other than like knowing that like, yeah, it was a really balanced lobby. Day 1 is where I talked to a lot more of the teams. And like again, like same thing happened. All the teams here, I could just tell that there was that anxiety of going to that LCQ bracket. That was that.
Yeah. So from my viewing perspective on it with TSM, they were in the similar boat that I think a lot of teams were kind of in. It felt like in this tournament, teams that we expected to do well but weren't. It was just the team fighting seemed off, especially on this day. Going into the losers bracket, it actually looked like it was going a lot better for them. But on this day in particular, it just felt like their team fights were just iffy. They were just off. Things were not going the way that they were expecting them to. That's the vibe that I got from the team. And talking to Donnie a little bit, Donnie seemed upset with just the amount of indecision that was happening within the entire team dynamic. And for anybody who doesn't know Donnie, he does like our analyst behind the scenes type stuff. He helps us out a ton with that. Talking to him about TSM because I always like to ask him things that I'm already thinking. Like, this is where I'm coming from. What do you think about this? And I brought up the team fighting. He was very like, yeah, I don't understand a lot of what's going on with TSM right now. And that's just kind of where it was at that entire group stage day. NRG was also surprising a little bit. It seemed like they were always in a tough spot, could never really find their footing. And with bringing up ExoClan, funny enough, this entire podcast series, I've been watching ExoClan very tightly, like just watching them a lot. And the reason why is because they landed at my favorite POI on Olympus. And I was like, oh, I love this team now. I think they got second place in that game. I think Fnatic ended up winning that one. But that's why I picked them, and I just started following along with them, and they were super impressive the entire time. You want to talk about taking your chances and making the most of them? You're not even supposed to be here, right? Like you're not even supposed to be here. And not only do you do decent, but you make a name for yourself, and you make it to that finals lobby. So shout out ExoClan.
Yeah, I got to meet
talk about them more a
ExoClan's
little bit
owner.
later.
Hilarious dude.
I was tweeting with him the whole time. I was like,
gosh.
make me look smart.
I'm trying to, I don't want to like butcher where he's from. I want to say it was a Scottish accent, but like heavy Scottish accent. And it was just so funny because like I'm sitting there with Zephyr and we're just like all talking for a while. And then all of a sudden I go, oh, by the way, I'm Jumba. Like I'm like an Apex like content creator. And there he goes, what's his name? Is his name Max? Shoot, I'm going to like butcher this now. Hold on. Jack. He goes, oh, I'm Jack. I'm the owner of ExoClan. And he just says it like, well, like he said it so nonchalantly, and like he was roasting Swinny, and I can't remember who the second person was playing FIFA. He was like roasting them the entire time. So I thought he was just like doing a bit, but like I'm also not gonna like be like, stop fucking with me. Who are you actually? Because I'd seen him on stage, so I thought he was their coach. And then like, no, he actually is the owner of ExoClan. So that was pretty funny. I got to talk with him, but he was pretty cool. He was super amped for his team. Talked to Swinny briefly in that moment too. He did not like the format. I was talking to him. A lot of the players didn't like the format. That's what I mean. Like, I really want ALGS to like I've seen there's a lot of stuff on the Reddit, people talking about like, oh, this format was so much better than ALGS, and I disagree because like even the players, like if you played on day one and if you qualified, you didn't play for 3 days, and like that's a big gap to not like have like not be playing at the highest level when you're at LAN. Like Swinny, when I was talking to him, he said like, obviously I like it right now because I'm qualified. He goes, if I didn't qualify, I'd like absolutely hate it. He goes, and like even like this day of like not like competing, he goes, and the fact that we didn't play the first day, like you play 1 day of Apex and then you go to finals. He's like, I want to keep playing. They're like, yeah, we got TDMs, we got scrims, we got all that stuff, but they want to play, like, right? So yeah. So anyways, that was that. Yeah, TSM. Let's hop right into LCQ. I'll tell you a little bit about TSM. Team fighting was definitely one of their issues. That we like. It was definitely one of the things that I know was on their mind too. From my perspective too, I could be mistaken. I do need to go back and look at their scrims if that shit's all saved. But I believe in scrims they were playing Seer. And then when they got to LAN, they switched and they were playing Pathfinder. So they weren't practicing that Pathfinder comp very much. And then they switched to Seer. Or no, and then so when they switched to him, it's just like it wasn't really working as effectively as they wanted to because they were out of practice. And I will say, I did talk to Verhulst briefly, and he did mention that he felt like their practice leading up to this LAN just wasn't utilized as well. He said he felt like it was kind of wasted. So with that all being said, I think that's where they maybe kind of fell flat there. Again, the format doesn't really help. Like they were 3 points off finals, and then they were like they're 3 points off finals in Group B, and then in Last Chance they were 8 points off, but that's because SSG won that last game. Like they came third, like they were 1 placement off getting into that final. So the format really hurt them. I have no doubt in my mind that in an ALGS bracket style tournament that they get to that final. I still think that they're a good team. They just iron some things out over the next 3 weeks, and I think that they'll perform really well. So TSM doesn't concern me. SSG is the one that concerns me, being so kind of like hot.
Can we save them for finals?
You want to talk about
save
finals?
them for finals? Like, no. Like,
Yeah.
I want to talk. We'll continue talking about this LCQ, but I do want to save SSG for finals.
Yeah,
because we have talked a lot. We've talked up phony a lot on this show, and I feel like it would be so unfair if we also didn't point out some things. So we'll save them for a little bit later. Let's going through the results of this. This was the first time, Jumba, I've ever predicted something. I thought I was giving Guild Esports the kiss of fucking death. I thought I was giving them the kiss of death when I said Guild Esports. I originally said Guild Esports, TSM, and then I changed and went Guild Esports, Crazy Raccoon. Somebody, I clipped me saying Guild Esports TSM just to make myself look cooler. And some listener was like, "Come on, man, you know you switched to Crazy Raccoons." I was like, I may or may not have done this. No questions at this time. Yeah, so he got me there. Shout out that listener. But yeah, so I put Guild Esports in there. Like I told you, I'd been watching them ever since the B-Rad stream. They really did well. They impressed me. There was a crazy stat on this that I said on one of the pods, and I think let me look at the placement again. Yeah, so out of the 10 games they played, there were only 2 games that they did not get top 5.
Oh,
and
yeah,
those 2 placements where they didn't get top 5, 6th and 10th.
Yeah.
That's a level of consistency that, like, when you're going in and you know there's only 2 spots open, that was a team that was locked on the entire time. They were just locked on the entire time. And it's such a shame that we don't have the POVs, because I would love to go through this day. I think this is a huge, impressive day. There's only 2 spots, and you're able to come up with that kind of consistency. I want to see whatever they were doing that day to be able to put them in that spot.
I tried to get those POVs. I tried to get them. I had a guy who like could help me. Like I get the people who he could ask, and he's just like, yeah, they can't do it. Can't happen. I don't even think they exist.
It's so unfortunate.
I don't even think they exist. That's why, like, if you saw the replays that they would do in like the LCQ bracket and in the final that they would do, they would show the replays at the end, but they would always put like the main broadcast and just like the players like comms and their cameras, because I don't think they had the individual POVs saved. I don't know. Yeah, no, hey, I picked Guild and CR too. We DM'd about that like well, I don't know, it was like fucking 3 a.m. for me or something like that, but we were like popping off that we picked the same teams without thinking about it. Like, it was kind of funny because I didn't tell anyone about my my Guild pick, really. Like, I'd kind of like, everyone picked Crazy Raccoon. I want to like be transparent on that. We all kind of like picked Crazy Raccoon because despite that they haven't done too great, they are the LAN defending champions. They're a good team, right? Even though it's not Karampu, it's like Juicena now. They're still a good team. And then they took all the Falcons POIs. So they took Mill, they took Sky West, and then on Olympus they had Estates, on Kings Canyon they have Crash Site, and then on Broken Moon they have Quarantine Zone. So we're like, no matter what they have, or sorry. There is one map in there that they didn't actually take the same POI. And now I can't think of which map it was. But regardless, it was still a good POI. They had the best POIs on every single map. And so from everyone's perspective, it's like LAN defending team taking the best POIs. Like, there's no reason that this team doesn't go through. And we looked smart on game 1. They won. We're like, oh yeah, like Crazy Raccoons got this. They're locked, right? Funny enough, that was one of the hardest zones for them. I'm pretty sure like that was a zone that ended around like Dome or like Launch Site. And they came from Sky West, so they had to like come across the entire map. All I know is a southeast pull, and yeah. So then they ended up pulling up way short and dropping 17th. So I'm not blaming anyone for that CR pick. We all thought that CR should have gone through there. The Guild pick, though, I kind of kept it quiet. I was sitting in the talent room with all the casters, like, so guys, I'm like, I know we're all kind of like picking CR. I'm like, what are you guys thinking? Because I didn't know if I was like, I didn't ever know if I was going to get interviewed for anything like that, but I knew there was always a chance. And like, if I was going to get interviewed, I wanted to be prepared for stuff. And so I was trying to like get opinions from other people. And so it was like, CR, okay, CR, but like, what do we think for like number 2? And like, I had gone through a lot of it like the night before. And like, I was sitting there, I was like, man, I'm like, I can't see a lot of these teams going through, because like DSG was contested on 4 or 5 maps, like Energy had a contest, like just NIP hadn't been like hadn't been rotating well, even when they had beacons and everything like that. I went through it all, and I was like, the only team that I actually think right now, and I knew the thing about like TSM and like the practice, I kind of like was aware about that going into it. So the only team I felt good about was Guild. And I was like so upset that I didn't say it more publicly, because I was like, oh fuck, I actually called something for once.
Yeah, but I have I have it on record that
You
you
do
were
have on
thinking Guild. I have it on record
Yeah,
that
but it was
you were
after
thinking
the
Guild.
fact. It was still after the fact. Like I
Yeah, but I
said, but
trust you.
yeah.
I trust you though. The other part throughout this entire roster was the final game, and the final game was insane because TSM was in that second position, despite the fact that they weren't playing their best. The worst part, I think, about it was how locked in they were to that position for most of the day. Like you could see that they were doing well, but it just feels like that 10 games, it really starts to expose some things throughout a day. Like I was talking about it on the other pods with Connor. It's like those 6 games, I feel like the sweet spot will always be 8. Because in those 6 games, a lot of times one win can overshadow an
Mm-hmm,
entirely shitty
mm-hmm.
day. But in this case, it almost seems like when you get a really good win, it almost gets swept under the rug if things don't go like perfectly throughout the rest of this. And we saw that eventually in the finals as well. So TSM, they have like 2 second places back like in a row. You're thinking, oh, okay, one of them they had 12 bodies on it. You're like, all right, they should be in a good spot. But that final game, I tweeted it out, and I said it on the podcast before. I was like, they need to have Verhulst on the Bangalore. I know it's weird because usually the IGL is running the Bangalore and usually it's MNK, but I think Verhulst does a lot better when he's playing the Bangalore. And they switch to the Bangalore. He's playing it, and he puts out just a terrible smoke on their rotate when they're leaving Lava Fissure. It completely leaves reps wide out in the open. He gets shot. He goes down. All of a sudden, Zap is trying to make something happen. He goes down. Now Verhulst has to do it all on his own. And to his credit, he did a really good job. I think he got 4 bodies as like a solo, and he starts coming in. But finally, Space Station had the perfect spot to win that game,
Yeah.
and they had the perfect spot to swoop in and steal that second spot, and that's exactly what they did.
Give me one quick second. I need to look up something on minus tempo. I want to see, because this is something I've been meaning to look into, and I'll talk about it here. EWC final drop spots. Let me look up. I need to see the drop spots for LCQ.
I think they landed relatively close to that exact spot. It was almost like the
Yeah,
perfect
no, I want
zone
to
for them.
know Navi's drop spot. Okay, so this is what I will say. I got pretty. I try to stay pretty neutral. Most teams try to not get too annoyed or too upset. And granted, there are 10 games. So at the end of the day, TSM had 10 games to put themselves into a position where they were going to qualify and not be on a chopping block position so that this didn't screw them over. But Navi pissed me the fuck off. Maybe I like the TSM guys. Maybe I just was not liking the Navi guys or something like that. But they pissed me the fuck off in the way they played the last 2 games. Because honestly, TSM makes that qualification, but Navi griefs both their games just playing stupid. I won't probably ever speak this strong about a team, but they just played it so dumb. And then going into that final game, they were 40 points down. There's only been one team in a competitive Apex lobby that's ever dropped 40 points. It was an APAC South. It was an APAC South LCQ qualifier to get into champs. A team dropped 40 points and then proceeded not to qualify in that LCQ qualifier. That's not for anything. That's the level of like consistency that team has and the quality of that lobby. So we've never had a team drop 40 points in a lobby like this. And Jayhawk made a good point to me about this because I was kind of flying off the handle in a Shake Shack. And as and he was saying, he's like, you know what? He goes, but like you got to drop a big game. Like, why would you not go for it? Right. And I agree. If Navi needed to go for a big game, go for the big fucking game. But my problem was, and Jay agreed too, and I won't speak on his behalf. I'm just saying he agreed too that they played it so dumb. So Navi drops at Mirage à Trois Lava Fissure, and the zone pulls to the mountain just by Mirage à Trois, right? And they decide to drop and just full send it north and not go to the zone where it was going to be, and that they could have predicted. I'd have to see if they had a beacon and everything like that. They decided to full send it north and just try to fight teams and everything like that, right? At the same time, DSG drops surprise drop on Fennel, and they try to get some KP and everything like that, and then rotate back down to Treat. Maybe I should put more accountability on DSG, but I think DSG, the way they played it, was a little bit smarter than Navi because Navi just kept sending us north. But those two actions by those two teams freed up that god spot for SSG to move in a typical game. SSG's not getting that position. And that's the way that this LCQ lobby was built. Like, it was made to have these moments happen where someone was going to get a little bit lucky, right? But then, yeah, Navi just proceeded to send it on that north side, and they just run at every single team. They needed 40 points, and they were just playing it, in my opinion, so stupid that they threw their game where they weren't going to ever drop a big game, and then they griefed the fuck out of TSM. Where TSM probably would have qualified in that game there if that didn't happen. And then we're having a different conversation because we're having the conversation that, oh my god, TSM clutched up and they got to finals. Instead we're having this conversation of like, my gosh, it's Rep's first time not the finals. Like, what went wrong? What went, like, it was top 2 position and they were 8 points out, and SSG only gets it because they win that last game because they got such a god spot that was kind of gifted to them. And I'm usually the person that tries to avoid saying things are gifted to people. I don't like ever saying that because, like, if you play well, like, you obviously deserve to get to a position, and like they had to close the game out still, but it was pretty gifted to them. And I'd have to go back. I want to go back through the game, and I'm going to because I'm working on a recap video for this tournament. But I've never really sat there and been like, give me a fucking break the way that they were playing, right? And I had a moment with that with DSG too. When DSG, like, they dropped and then they worked their way down to tree and they took a fight with TIE, and then they started rotating back towards thermal, and it's like, perfect, they can get some loot here at thermal because they didn't loot it, and then they can work through the choke and take like the position that would be Godspot. Maybe they win, but they also needed 30 points, so they need to go big. They pop an evac and they fly back over to bridge, and I'm assuming that they want to go to bridge because I was on the edge and they knew all the teams are going to be closing in from the northeast side, and that they were going to be able to try and fight all those teams. But they take the bridge and it's just an impossible rotate into the zone, and they die to energy, and kind of grief energy's game too. So like, yeah, like, whereas there, like, when they pop that evac, if maybe I'd have to see what was free and available, but maybe if they didn't go for the god spot because SSG was there, they would have had to go like somewhere else that was more better in zone and try to like take some fights and everything like that. It's just the LCQ format caused it that like there was teams that were gonna start doing some crazy things because they need to drop some big games. My problem was, it was like, I guess I was like, Navi, you're not dropping a 40-point game. You're just throwing other people's games at this point. But
yeah,
they also, like Jay said, I don't know. I'm so conflicted with this because I was so frustrated by it. But Jay's right. Like, you might as well try. You might as well try.
Yeah, you got to at least try, because like at the end of the day, it's like it would be such a loser mentality to just be like, oh, we're down 40 points, we can't do it. Like, they do have to try, but at the same time, it's such a deep hole. Like it's like one of those holes where it's like almost, I might as well have fun with it. Like we're not going to make it. Let's just have some fun in the final game, but yeah, it's a weird situation.
Maybe I'm botching my opportunity of ever doing anything with Navi. I don't know.
Listen,
but the problem is like, too, dude, is it like
you have to be critical when you feel like you're being critical. That's the part that doesn't happen enough in this scene. And I understand feeling like that, but no, you shouldn't. What I was also going to add to it. Yeah, what I was going to add to it is that, like, this team, and I'll say this because it's not like a mind-blowing observation. This team does Unreal online. They always finish top 3 in Pro League, and then go to LANs and cannot make a finals lobby ever. They finished 12th in this lobby. They finished 13th in Group B. It does not make sense. And like, there was a lot of discussion around the tournament that they think that they're cheating online, that there's someone feeding them zone information online, because it just does not make sense that these guys can be freaking so good online and always in the right position, and then LAN comes and they have never made a LAN final. They finished like 40th once, they finished like 36th another time. Like in split one, they just like, yeah, it's just like, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
So that's the thing. I guess that's the thing that also kind of like confused me, because it's like, it's starting to get to me too. Like, I try not to believe that's what's starting to get to me too. It's like, no, it's like, are you legit? Because you somehow make insane zone calls and then made that play to leave Mirage à Trois, or not like try to play for like where the zone was going to be and maybe gatekeep, hold teams out. Like, you just hard sent it north. I don't know.
I also feel like that position that they could have gotten, like you're saying, they would have had a very good chance of getting that spot. That is a spot where you're kind of overlooking a cliff where a lot of teams are going to be running in. And if you can pair if you can pair winning with getting shots down into the ravine, there's a good chance you can get some good KP too. You may not get the 40 you need, but you're going to get damn close, I think, if you take that spot. Also, knowing that there's going to be teams probably trying to come up behind you from thermal station, I think there was an opportunity for them, if they really thought about it, to get decent KP while also maintaining and holding the spot. I could be way off
Yeah,
base on
even if
that,
you don't take the mountain
but
spot because it's so far away, you hold from Mirage or you hold the cliffside, everyone's going to be working their way
they're
down to
working
you.
in
They're
towards
working
you. Yeah.
instead of you pushing out and like making yourself vulnerable, and then also like now you're putting yourself in a position where the storm's on your back. Everyone's running towards you.
Mhm.
There's a very similar zone. I'd be curious to see how they play it, but like when they were LG but Liquid, current Liquid roster, back when they dropped like a record in a losers bracket, and I want to say split one playoffs of the first London playoffs. Um, it was a Fisher. It was a lava Fisher zone, and they worked from like that side, like that cliff side in between Mirage to Fisher, and they dropped like 28 points to get in or something like that, or 30 points to get it. No, it was like 32 points to get in.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
Didn't they get like 25 kills or some shit like that?
yeah, it was the record up until like the most recent ALGS land. This playoffs were Alliance beat in a group stage, but is the record for a while. So they dropped a big game working from that side because a lot of people just had to rotate into them. It was a slightly different zone because it's more north, but I'm just saying like yeah, like I don't think the way that they just started running at teams was the way to do it. And it seriously griefed TSM. And
Yeah, it
again,
did.
maybe I'm biased. Maybe I like the TSM guys. Maybe
I know.
I
I
will
think
be. I
you're
will
making
be.
a great
Fuck it.
point. Yeah, yeah. You're
Okay.
making a good point, though, nonetheless. And so those final two teams, Guild and SSG, were your final two teams to make it into the finals lobby. Ladies and gents, I think it's finally time to
Finals
get to
lobby.
the finals. And we can't start it any other way than congratulating Team Alliance. I got the jersey right here.
Oh, I was supposed to wear my jersey. Why I fumbled so hard.
I got the jersey right here. Me and Jumba at LA Land, we both saw this jersey. We're like, that's the fucking sickest jersey
You know
of
what's
all
funny?
time.
You know what we didn't even catch at that LAN is I'm pretty sure we saw Unlucky wearing the jersey.
Yeah,
Unlucky walked by us. He's wearing the jersey. By the way, like Unlucky, I think that dude's got great style. Every time I see him, I'm like, that dude
so stylish.
dresses nice. And like even with the jersey and stuff like that, he's always like looks like dressed nice. And so I remember seeing him walk by, and like the two of us literally did like a fucking double take. We're like, wait, that jersey's sick. And we
That's
walked up to
sick
the
as
booth
fuck.
and bought one in that moment. Like, yeah.
Yes,
So
dude. So I got the jersey. Alliance, they are here. Shout out Alliance. They finally, in their long timeline of dealing with bullshit, they get their win. They are the champions of EWC. It was awesome to see. This entire finals lobby can really be summed up as chaos. 13 games deep that it went. Alliance didn't even make match point until game 10. So it
wow,
took
I
them
didn't
quite a
realize
while
that.
to
Are you
get there.
serious?
Yeah, it took them 10 games to get there. They were on this weird, I like to call it the sweet effect. Whenever we're at land, sweet seems to get stuck in the final 10 points to get to that little match point area.
Yeah,
And that
100%.
happened again with them
Yeah, he
today. Or
did.
not today, in that finals lobby. But shout out to Alliance. All three of those guys, they did incredible. I think I already saw some people saying, well, it took them 13 games to get it. I don't give a fuck. The amount of times they've been called the group stage team and the way that they finessed that final game, they were able to do it. Shadow Alliance, this is a team that has deserved a win for a very, very long time. They've been one of
Agreed.
the greatest teams in this scene for a very, very long time. Hopefully, we're going to try to reach out. Hopefully, we can get one of them on the show to talk about this win. We didn't go for it this week just because of travel, and I barely got Jumba today because travel is a bitch. It is a serious bitch, especially when you're
No,
coming
I
from
forgot to wear
Saudi.
the jersey because I woke up when you text me, "Let's go." Like I'm in the studio. Like cuz
I was asleep too.
I was asleep, bro. Like yeah, like it's technically still like I don't know, like 5 a.m. for me right now or something like that. Like the jet lag has
Yeah.
been kicking my ass.
Yeah, so travel is a bitch. So we're gonna see if we can get him on soon. But shout out to Team Alliance. Jumbo, just from your perspective, watching them for as long as you have, anything you want to say about Alliance, whether it be in this tournament or just their team as a whole?
Well, first of all, like I'm actually extremely happy for Kelly, who's the CEO of Alliance. I got to meet her at LA LAN, and she's just First of all, so funny, so awesome, but so passionate about Apex and about esports, but specifically Apex. I remember like when in LA, they like just narrowly qualified for finals through I think losers bracket round two. And she turns around, she's like, Jumbo, Jumbo, we did it. And she like almost fell over the freaking the benches. And then I walked down there and I took a picture of the whole Alliance team when they won for her. So yeah, so like she's just so passionate and like when we have a lot of orgs who kind of like come and go when it comes to Apex, to see an org and an org like CEO and owner who is just like so committed to the scene and putting like effort into helping grow the game, no one deserves that more than that org. And likewise with Hawkus, a guy who's been there since the beginning, committed, put like the time, put in like the effort, and like has had to deal with a lot of like things like group stage teams, like, you know, like a lot of like this doubt that like they can't show up in the big moments to finally do that. Dude freaking deserves it. Dude freaking deserves it. Yeah. Absolutely awesome.
It
So
was, I think, I saw a lot of Alliance hate in the chat. Can you explain that? Or is there a reason why people hate Alliance so much?
because they're not Falcons. Like, I
I don't
don't
know
know. Like,
why.
it's got to be because they're not
That could
Falcons.
be it. That could be a major. I was looking at, so like going into the final game. The funniest part was the night before finals. Me and Connor recorded a pod, and he was like, "How many games do you think it goes?" And I say 14, and he looks at me like I'm a psychopath. He goes like 14. I was like, "Yeah, dude, I don't know. I just have a feeling it was 14." And there was a chance. There was a serious chance that the dead last team in this lobby, Blacklist, almost wins this game and would
Yeah.
have sent it to a game 14. I think they got top 3. Was it third? Let me see.
Someone
Let me
tweeted it
scroll.
out. They're
No, it was
like,
fourth.
someone tweeted out. They're like, blacklist win comes right now or something like that. Like, I don't
I
know.
tweeted Blacklist. I was like, win it now. They were like, we're trying our best. I was like tweeting their social media. Yeah, so
Excuse
there
me.
was a good chance.
So
But
good.
out of all the teams that were in match point, I was going through, I was like, most of these, personally, I'd be okay with winning. But like the teams that I would be really okay with winning was like Alliance, Luminosity. I picked ExoClan, so I'm saying ExoClan, Twisted Minds, because I love Strafing Flame. Like those are the teams I was really looking at. When Alliance, when I saw them like pulling up, I was like, let's go. Like I wanted to see them win so bad. I didn't understand why they had so much hate, but
It could also be like
I
a
guess
EMEA thing, NA versus EMEA thing,
that's
right?
what I was thinking.
Like I'm thinking it's that too. Could definitely be that. At least I don't think people actually hate Alliance. They're also do that group stage thing definitely did build like some kind of animosity. A lot of people, you know, Effect was like brought up and like kind of hyped up as like this like next like big player, like this like changing the game. Like I had a part in doing that. But like and then like he kind of like didn't do well in finals. I think he dropped 0 kills in LA in finals bracket. And then the previous one, like he had an amazing group stage and then they got ninth. And then so Alliance's best LAN performance in like recent memory was actually not even with Effect. It was with Mandy when Effect couldn't make it to the split one playoffs and they got top 5. So that's I think there was a lot of people kind of just were, I don't like this word, but like we're like calling them frauds and such like that when it was just that they needed to break through and they did, right? Like as good
Yeah.
as Effect was like 17 going out to land, young kid, and needed to like kind of come into form. Yuki was kind of like on his way out. They pick up on Lucky and like they start doing pretty good now. Pretty good out. By the way, Unlucky came from Navi. Just congrats to that guy.
I love it. I love it. No, man, it was great to see. It was awesome. Hacky has some sick tats, just sick. When he was walking down the hallway going to like go to the key area, his walk was so metal. Like he was just walking like an absolute boss. I might start a new series, Championship Walk.
Championship
He had
walks.
a championship walk. Like his walk was he dude
Yeah,
had a championship walk going.
He's got some swagger.
But shout out Alliance.
It's funny because I don't know any, like I haven't had the chance to ever talk to any of the Lions players. I've talked their entire staff, and awesome people. Pontus, I haven't even hit him up to say congrats. Awesome dude. Talked to him a bunch at LAN. And then after there was, I think it was Kelly's sister. She told me it was Kelly's sister. I was talking to her because Kelly wasn't there. And then after there was like one other girl that I saw with them the entire time, and I was in the elevator with them. They didn't even know I was an Apex content creator. I just saw them there on their phone, and they're like, "Oh, this photo, it's all broken up. Like I can't post this photo of Alliance because it's all broken up." I'm like, "Oh, do you guys have like the link for all the other photos?" And they're like, who are you? Like, what are you talking about? And so like I stopped and I gave them the link where they could get all the pictures to get like and so I was showing them how they could post photos for their team. And so then after I told them who I was, and it's pretty cool from there. But yeah, let's go into like some like crazy things that happened other than Alliance though, because like, oh my god, this tournament was fucking wild.
Alliance is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. So we had
Team Falcons.
We'll go to Team Falcons. I want to quickly say we had a bet amongst all the casters how long this tournament would go to match point. I said 9 games alongside Onset. Was looking pretty good. I thought I nailed it, and then after it went 10, and then it was going to be Genome, and then after it went 11, and Genome's like, oh, so I guess I win. We're like, no, you got it wrong. You had to be right. We weren't doing Prices Right rules here, like closest to without going over or something like that. Like what? Like, because we had money in that pool. And then so Team Falcons, yet they couldn't close it out. They got off to a hot start. They were still the top team.
Am I crazy?
But they couldn't close it out. What are you crazy about? What? No, it didn't happen.
Listen,
they didn't
am
close
I crazy about the fact? No. Am I crazy about the fact that Zero fighting Alliance of all teams with the Kraber out up close? That's a crazy move to me. And I heard from some people saying he hits those shots a lot. So I was like, okay, maybe I'm wrong. But I feel like if the other 2 guys have the Kraber out, let's just say, for instance, it's either Hal or Jen have the Kraber out and they lose a fight, and Zero's like, you had the Kraber out when we're fighting there? Like, am I crazy to say like that was kind of like a low-key, cocky, a little over-the-top type move right there?
It could have been. I will say, like, if you think Zero would give his 2 teammates shit, like, he is way harder on himself than he is on anyone else. I know that for sure.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, like, yeah.
The thing is the first Kraber shot, not a problem. It's the fact that he switched his gun, emptied the mag, switched back to the Kraber, and put 2 more shots out that he missed. In my opinion, I'm pretty sure that happened, right? Like, I'm pretty sure he missed 3 no-scopes in that situation. Trying to go for it. There's a lot of, you gotta realize, like they're a great team, and they're probably the team that can handle pressure the best. But like at the end of the day, there's pressure, and like it was just the Falcons crowd, and they were expected to win. And so who knows what happened in that moment? Why he did that? It's kind of the second time that he's choked a LAN away. They should have won LA too, and he got Krabered in the back of the head, in fact. It's kind of crazy to see that happen almost back to back. I don't really know. I mean, it's a long match point final too, so like people are like closing that out is tough. And I will say, for match point final and this tournament in general, there was a stomach bug going around. Again, I heard that. I think
Hal said something about that.
Yeah, like I won't name any names, but I will confirm that Hal was sick on match point final day because he did say it publicly. But I knew going into that, I even joked with the casters, like new intel came in. I was just told Hal's really sick. I'm like, so like they're probably gonna like have some problems today, and he was I actually found it interesting that I saw him going to Canes at 3 a.m. after, because he was really sick. Like I is very confirmed.
Yeah. So I guess the one thing I will say about Falcons positively here, because I think they're the type of team where it's win or bust. I don't think there's really any sort of like points you can give to be like, oh well, at least we did this, at least we did that. And I think Falcons is that team where it's like it's win or bust no matter what. What I will say here is I still think they were the best team at this tournament. Even though they didn't win, I think by far and away they were the best team. I don't think that's a crazy take either. I don't think, if you watch from start to finish, they were the best. They were bullying everybody off of spots. They looked good for most of it. We actually did record with Finn, but the audio got messed up. And one thing he said in that recording was there was a moment in time that you just looked at Falcons and you could tell that there was something off. After I think it was about game 11, it just looked like they were kind of not even, I don't want to say shell shocked, because that would mean that they were like, not playing well. They were still playing well, but there was just you could just tell.
No, I think
that little
I think
vibrato.
It was shell shock.
Really?
No, no, I think like you said, they're playing well. No, they actually did not play well after that. Like after game 10, the 11th, 15th, no kills, 14th with 1 kill, 16th, 0 kills. Like they didn't play good after game 9.
I just thought it was a great point by Finn because I started to notice that as well. Where
Well, there's
like
the picture
not
of
even
Zero.
really in the gameplay, but the picture of Zero, which it's funny, it's a meme, but also like when they were panning to them throughout this entire tournament, or not in the entire tournament, after that point, you could see a lot of the body language just seemed off.
I think that they them knowing how close they were to like winning it. It is like it's almost even like an adrenaline dump. Like you just lose it all and like trying to regain that ability to like lock back in and say, okay, we could go again. But then like like going from being the only team on match point, being the only 3 teams on match point, then suddenly like there's 5, 7, 13 teams, like the randomness, the ability to close that out like slips more and more and more. And like you start thinking to yourself, like, holy shit, we should have did this. Instead, now we're 13 games in, 7 hours later. Like you had all this energy and like surgence at the beginning where you played so good. They put themselves so far ahead of the competition where they played bad for those last 4 games and still had the most points on the day, right? It was only by 2 points, but they didn't drop many points in those games because they had a 30-point gap, I think, at one point. So it's like you had all this, so it's like they lost it all. Whereas like then after you start to see teams who had slower starts surge back and like get a lot of points, like LG, like Alliance,
LG.
right? LG was crazy. LG, if they won LAN and they were very close, I think they came in 3rd that last game. If LG won that last game, they would have passed Falcons in points. They would have, I'm pretty sure. I'd have to double check. It might be like tied or 1 point off, but they would have passed Falcons in points, which just, like I said, goes to show Falcons, I think at one point had a 20 or 30 point lead, and then suddenly LG was able to make that comeback and like get that second life where it's like, so it was like, it's almost like it flipped, right? It flipped where it's like they started off so hot and just lost it. Energy got that energy later. Like, this is still going. We got the chance to push forward here. We just got to do what we got to do to keep it alive. And they did.
Yeah, so Falcons, they're not able to pull it off, but I think I said this on the recording with Finn too. I said, like, I have them pinned, locked, putting the house on them winning Germany.
Yeah.
I have it locked in
100%.
And I'm not typically the type of guy to go for like the best team. I always say some random pick because I feel like it's funner that way. It's Falcons. Falcons is winning Germany. I'm putting my stamp of approval on that.
Likewise.
For winning that.
Likewise.
Yeah. So actually, if we both put our stamp of approval on that, that's like the worst stamp of
worst
approval
thing we could
you
do.
could ever.
Everyone,
we just buried them.
Bet any other fucking
the team's breaking up.
Yeah, they're probably breaking up. Hal's retiring.
Let's go to LG because you mentioned them and they get 3rd here, which is incredible for how their day started and how bad
match point on game 12.
A lot of this match point on game 12, and they get 3rd place at the end there. They just get caught behind these little bins inside of tree, which sucked because the storm was on their ass. I instantly when they were in that, like, when they finally hit match point, I had put all of my chips, all of my marbles pushed towards LG because I was like, this would be Sweet's masterpiece. Like like everything that had happened up to that point, very similar to like what Alliance has gone through. I
agree.
Just for one person, that would have been incredible. And I was rooting for it so hard. It doesn't happen. But really what happens with LG is they have, I'm going to say Sweet here. What happens with Sweet a lot of times at these lands is he'll get to a spot where he's super close to the match point, or at least the last 2 lands that I've seen him in. He'll get super close to the match point, and then it's like the points just barely trickle in. And that happened here where it was like it felt like they were within 10 points forever. And I could be wrong on that. Same thing happened at LA. They were within 10 points for what felt like forever. And they finally get there. Finally. Or actually, no. We should take a step back. They get to 59. And 59. We're like, oh, my God.
They win the game, and they're on 59. Listen, if someone put a gun to my head and said, you need to pick one player to stop a team from winning on match point, and if they don't do that, I am shooting you right now.
Right.
All day, I'm picking Sweet. That man stopped 3 teams from winning the fucking tournament. He stopped Optic back at Champs, and I have to go through LA again, and he probably did it there too. But that dude and stopping teams from winning on match point is fucking crazy. And that game 11, when they won, Yeah, like I was losing it. I could not believe that they not only did it for the third time this tournament, he stopped a team from winning on match point. Because who was it? Who got second? Aurora. He stopped Aurora from winning on match point when they drop off the height. And then when I did the math, because they didn't, the score wasn't adding up yet, and I quickly did the math. I was like, wait a minute. I looked at everyone in the room, like, are they at 59 after that? I was
Bro,
like,
it was a
like it's
kick
like sweet
the
staple.
balls.
It's like a sweet staple. This dude just saved the tournament again and didn't get match point on that game.
It was a kick to the balls. I was like, bro, you're kidding me right now. But that's what happened. And so finally they're able to get in there, get to the match point. They were the team that I was like, I need this. I need this
And
win.
They were so close, bro.
And they were
Third
so
place.
close. They were so close. But I loved their bounce back. I also loved seeing what Sweet was saying after the tournament was done. He was talking about, he put out a tweet basically saying like, this one hurts a lot more, and it brought back a fire in me that I don't think I felt in a while. And I'm very excited to see what happens at Jeremy. Once again, I'm still putting my stamp of approval on Falcons, but like, how great would it be? We talk about it all the time. How great would it be for him to finally get one? Like, I want to see it so bad. I want to see it so bad.
Like LG was sick. Like Sykes is a dude I wanted to chat more with. Unfortunately, get the opportunity to, other than like 2 hellos. And then I saw him in Canes at 3 a.m. But like I was like dead. I was so tired. I just stuffed my face to Canes. And in, like, even though it was 3 a.m. in the morning and it's dark, it was like 35 degrees out there. I was like just not having it. I wanted to talk to that dude because like other than one LAN, that guy has finished top 3, I think, at every single LAN he's been to.
Bro, he is that guy.
Yeah.
He's that guy. He is just the guy. He is the glue. He puts teams that need that little extra spark, he puts the spark in there. That's what he does. He just does it consistently. He's been a part of such incredible teams, such incredible rosters, such incredible runs. It's awesome to see. And dude, another part about LG, that Funk 1v1 with, was it with Zero or was it with Jen Burton?
I'm not even
or
sure.
Was it with How?
Maybe
remember the one where they're on North Pad, they're in the little underground areas, and it was both teams had 2 down and they're 1v1ing with all of the this is the Twisted Minds game. So Connor brought this up. So they're in this 1v1. It's LG versus Falcons. Funk ends up winning the 1v1, but what ends up happening, I think Jen Burton was the one alive. Jen Burton, they're both fighting through knockdown shields. Jen Burton goes through one of the knockdown shields and finishes off one of LG's members. When Funk wins that fight, he's able to revive, I think, Sweet. He revives Sweet, but because one of their members was down, they only have 2. Twisted Minds come back. They have the full 3. The big question mark is what happens if Sykes doesn't get full killed there, because then it would have been 3v3 Twisted Minds versus LG. And I believe this is the game. I don't know.
They didn't have match point.
They got second.
They got second, but they just got match point.
They would have just gotten match point, so they wouldn't have won.
They wouldn't have won. That would have been crazy if they won both those games, then crazy. Not 13.
And then not game 13. Would have been nuts. But yeah, so
wait,
very
is that
interesting
right?
story there. What?
I don't know. I'd have to look, actually. I think LG did have like match point that game. I'm not sure.
No, because they got second in that game, and it looks like on this scoreboard.
Yeah, but Twisted Minds is the only team that could have saved that tournament there, unless the graphics were just wrong. But like Twisted Minds was the only team that could save that game there. So.
Well, yeah, and it says on Wikipedia that they got it game 12.
But I wonder if that means like game 12 was the first game that they could have closed it out on, and they got it game 11. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch that, because I'm confident that Twisted Minds was the only team that could keep that tournament alive. And if LG won it there.
No, now that you're saying that, I remember that as well. Yeah, I remember everybody's like, oh my God, Twisted Minds. Ah.
Yeah, we're going to go through that. We're going to go through like what was going on with us there.
Research on that, but yeah, so because I feel like that's why I thought that was so significant, because I felt like they could have won it there.
Yeah, they could have won.
Connor brought it up too. I think they could have won it. I think
they
could have won it. Yeah, so that was crazy. But yeah, so LG, they were awesome. It was great to see them climb back. Let's go to Twisted Minds.
Yeah, I want to talk about
that's not really that moment was really their entire tournament. Like they get to match point. Obviously, they got to match point super late. But that moment alone is incredible.
Talk real briefly. I want to just quickly mention. So remember Strafing Flame put out that tweet to me, and I knew I did him an injustice. I'm like, I gotta make it up. And like after game 2, Lace, she was the one doing all the interviews with the players, like walking around the venue. And she like comes up, she's like, hey Jumbo, you want to do an interview like in between like game 2 or something like that, right? And I'm like, yeah, totally. I'm like, what are kind of like you thinking about like talking to me about? She's like, pretty standard. Who do you think's gonna win? Who's this? I'm like, okay, well, I've kind of done like a lot of interviews talking about that. I'm like, but I do have actually a different answer, like, because I've been wanting to talk about Twisted Minds. I've been talking a lot about Mizuchi. So like let's do it. Let's do it, right? And so we go down, we do the interview between game 3 and 4. And so, yeah, Twisted Minds isn't doing good, but there's still a lot of time for them to come back and like start doing better, right? So I give this whole thing, Twisted Minds, why I think they would win. Like, this is where you know that you don't want me talking about you, I think, because they go on and they're doing terrible. And they don't,
Yeah.
my interview was pre recorded, so they don't play my interview to like game 7 or something like that. And like Twisted Minds is like doing terrible at the time. Like everyone's gonna think I'm stupid. They're like, this guy's talking about Twisted Minds. They got fucking 20 points in game 6 right now, man. Like that's like give me a break, bro. Like
It really is incredible how
like,
terrible we are
yeah,
at
because like
predicting things.
it's just so funny because I'm like man, I talked about this in game like 3, and now they're watching it in game 6. I'm like, and the timing's just terrible here. I'm like, because everyone's gonna think this is live, but it's pre-recorded. It's pre-recorded. So,
I mean, we're
anyways,
terrible.
so I like that they at least came back and gave me a little bit of a saving grace and hit match point by the end. But yeah, anyways, into that game, dude, like, so we were kind of losing it. So I was watching everything from the talent room. I wasn't watching it from the main venue because the main venue, like I said, the viewing experience wasn't that great. Like, if you had a badge, if you're a creator or like a team manager, you had to sit on like the ground, like on these like fold out chairs, and it was just impossible to see the screen. And it was also freaking cold in there because it's so hot in Saudi. They had the AC pumping so hard that it was uncomfortable for me to sit in there. So I was watching the talent room the entire tournament. I was with Onset, I was with Gaskin, and we had a map stream, but it kept freezing. And so all of us were just like freaking out, staring at the map stream, like, holy shit, there's like 5 match point teams in key position to win. It's all up to Fnatic. Fnatic's the only last team left alive. I have a picture of Onset and Gaskin pointing to Fnatic because they're like, this is our saving grace. They're just like this with the picture. Like, this is our saving grace. And we're so focused on that. And like, we're just cracking a bunch of jokes that we stop paying attention to the game. And then all of a sudden we look over, I'm like, oh shit, guys, that's frozen. Half those teams are dead. Fnatic's fighting right now. So we like look over, Fnatic's fighting, Fnatic goes down, and we're just like,
It's over.
oh my god, it's over. It's over. Okay, this is it. Because we look and Twisted Minds is alive, but it's just a solo. We didn't know that it's the second time that like Strafing was left as a solo. He had already revived his team once, and we're about like 2 feet away from the TV, all 3 of us. And then there's this guy Chris, I believe it's Vicky Kitty's boyfriend. He was with us, so the 4 of us are just all around the TV, just like this, just staring at the screen from 2 feet away. And all of a sudden the banner comes up the screen, but like we don't notice it. I'm pretty sure it's Onset. He's like, wait, Twisted Minds is reviving! Twisted Minds is reviving! And I'm like, we're like, what the fuck? And so now we're screaming. There's a couple other games. It's late at night, but there's a couple other games that we're casting throughout the day. Told us we were too loud. We didn't care at this point. We're fucking like, what? How could this be happening? I feel so bad for Vicky Kitty. I feel so bad because all
Dude,
she
I know.
wanted.
I tweeted it, bro.
Yeah, all she's wanted is to get a closeout call. She hasn't been able to get one. It always goes to
She
Onset
hasn't been
and
able to
Gaskin.
get one, dude.
And like you had to see like when it switched back after, I don't know what was it, game 7, and went to them for 8 and 9. She was kind of upset, and she's like I've never had like a game winning call. And I was trying to cheer her up. I was like, no, you have had one. She's like, when? I was like, split one playoffs and a final. It was the online tournament, but you did the call. She's like, no, I don't remember that. I'm like, no, you did. And I showed her. She's like, oh my god. She's like, I forgot. That was the first time I ever casted like a playoff or something like that. Anyways, so I was trying to get to that, but I was like, you know what, Vicky, screw that. I'm like, it's going game 11. You're getting game 11. You're getting that. And like her friends are texting her the same thing. So we went back to game 11. We're all looking. She's like looking around. We're like, oh my god, Vicky, it is now. And
it's now.
Game 12.
And then
fucking Twisted Minds.
Yep.
Which,
Twisted Minds.
don't get me wrong. She's like, that was one of the best games she ever cashed and watched in general. She wasn't that upset because she's like, that
She's
was
gonna
just
get her moment.
so crazy. Yeah.
She's gonna get her moment.
So
She's
I know
gonna get her moment.
I'm building this all up because like it was such a crazy moment to then see. Like again, I talked to Strafing after. I'm like, dude, because we don't have the comms, you got to tell me what was going on, what was going through your head. And he's like, yeah, he's like, because like he thought he was like against all odds. He's like, I was pretty calm. He's like, I didn't really like have anything like going on like there was really no pressure because like he just thought it was kind of over and he sees all the boxes but he's kind of like panicking. He searches through every single box and he's like, there's no Mobies, and he's like, you gotta be fucking kidding me. And he climbs up onto, there's like, I don't know, they're like kind of like a little stalagmite thing that like goes up in the ground, right? Whatever you call those things where the prowlers are. He's like, he climbs up and he goes, I see like 3 or 4 more boxes over top of that. So he throws his Bangalt, drops a smoke, drops down. So this way, I can't remember what team it was, but they couldn't peek him. He drops down, finds the Moby, gets back over, drops it, starts reviving. At the same time, Falcons LG are fighting. Alliance is fighting. Who was it in that game? Was it Aurora? Not Aurora. Maybe DMS? No. Yeah, DMS. It's DMS that they're fighting. And so like he's just waiting on like getting them back in the game. Obviously, ever since the update that you come back with shields, everything like that. And so they start pushing Alliance and we're like, oh, this is over. It's an LG win, even though they're a duo. Surely if Alliance takes even one of Twisted Minds out and like if there's a trade here, LG comes in for the clean sweep. And then again, all of a sudden, Dan and Onset are screaming, it's a clean wipe. It's like they were casting just for me and Chris. It's like, it's a clean wipe. It's a clean wipe. They clean wipe them. LG comes in. They're on the height. Sweet falls off the height. They kill them. We're going to game 13, baby.
It was a great. It's got to be top. You got to say top 10, right?
If they're like top 10, no, top like 3. Like the game that I always call the greatest game.
I meant like an Apex overall.
Yeah, I'm talking Apex overall.
You're saying greatest top game, 3?
Top 3 greatest games. Like name me 5 better games than that.
You know I can't do that.
Yeah, okay.
Not off the top of my head.
But this is what I'm saying. Okay, let's go through a couple of them right now, real quick, because I know I've been yapping for a while about all this stuff. But let's go through it really quick right now. What games do you think would be more electric than that moment? Okay, so I got Game 6, Split 2 playoffs in London when TSM is at the bridge and they're about to win, and then Xset comes off on the backside. Scurry throws the Horizon Q for FaZe. FaZe goes up. That's a big one. I think that's a crazy one. That's the one that I've always called the greatest moment because of the collusion that happened. I thought it was so cool. Maybe not so much anymore, okay? If we're talking individual game, I don't think the individual game of TSM winning champs is better than this Twisted Minds game. But if you want to like think about collectively, because they just completed a 3 back-to-back win, you could kind of put that moment up there. But so like, if we're talking individual game, I don't know, but like maybe those are 1, 2. Can you think of many better ones? Like I find when TSM won Split 1 playoffs, it was a monumental moment. The Valcalt they pull off in that game is really good. But again, it's just kind of like a standard match point game. Like they didn't do anything special to win that game.
Right. Like I was thinking a lot of just teams winning, but like, yeah.
The down from the heavens call. A lot of it is. Yeah, they're like from the heavens, like that elevates that moment so much more. And like it really was kind of like a redemption arc in the beginning of a redemption arc for TSM. So again, like a lot of the stakes make that game better. But like in terms of just like when the stakes are high and the moment you have to pull off, like I don't know. Like I think this Twisted Minds game has got to be like, I'd argue top 3. Like I'll take other people if they got like a 1 and 2 that are better. But that was crazy, man.
That was nuts.
12 games deep. 1 team alive. I think there was 4 or 5 match point teams alive. This man's a fucking solo and got the tournament to go. My favorite term that's ever come out of Apex, one more game. I don't know how if
one more game.
You don't understand how upset I am the multi POV doesn't exist because I was robbed of a video right there. Robbed of a video. No multi.
That's POV. The worst part about Esports World Cup is that, like, because I want to see that happen. I want to see what you just described happen and just watch it for myself. And it's tough.
Like the multi POV videos I do where I match up all 20 different like point of views and like kind of give the storyline, that would be one of the best ones. I wouldn't even know what to title the video because I'd need to come up with a banger title, but like it's just like the one where I did like the Trident. That's another game that could maybe go up into like top 3, top 5 when they steal the Trident, energy stops Optic from winning. Okay, that I would actually probably put. Okay, now I'm thinking like we're looking at top 3, top 4 here because that's a crazy game too.
That's a crazy game.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
crazy game.
yeah. So let's go top 5, but still,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, there we go. We can take that. We can take that. As many good teams and as many good performances and
Oh yes,
great
let's,
days that we've had. I'll just because you talked a lot on Twisted Minds, I'll kind of go into my tangent with Space Station Gaming. I started the Phony Fan Club a while back in the early day of this podcast where he had just made it from, I think it was Last Chance qualifiers or something. Phony makes it in. We interview him. It was a great interview. Had a great time interviewing him, and I instantly fell in love with like the personality, the guy, where he was coming from, all this different kind of stuff. I hype him up a lot. We also know that like Jayhawk now holds the crown for the Phony Fan Club president. He has stolen it from me. He took it away from me a while back because I started to, focus in a lot more on my guy Stay Naughty. But we've hyped up Phony a ton on this show, just an absolute shit ton on this show. We always mention him. We always put him in that like upper echelon IGL conversation. The last 2 lands we have seen from Phony have been like bad. And I think what we saw in this one was there was a day where Zainu gets MVP when they're going into the Last Chance qualifiers. And then I saw a stat, I think from Chrono Creative on Twitter, who put up the stats for the most amount of damage done if included. I think without the LCQ included, it was Hal. But with the LCQ included, it was Koiful. So Koiful's putting out a fuckload of damage. Zainu's an MVP for a day. But then you come in to a finals lobby with 13 out of the 20 teams making match point, and you guys are sitting at 17th and out of third. It's not even like they didn't make match point. They're out by like 16 points. Like it wasn't even close. Like they are far out from match point. Something has to be said. Like I said, I can't sit here and hype him up all the time and then also not be like, yo, what the hell is this? I look at one of these performances and I'm like, what the hell is this? Like we talked about this team being a super team before the season had started. We're like, yeah, Falcons is going to be great, but like, look at this SSG roster. This is the roster you want to be looking at. Like for the betting man out there, the person who goes on to Prize Picks, right? Person who's like, who should I lock in on? That's the team you look at and you say, holy shit, Space Station. That's the team. They have not shown it. And I'm not so sure it's fully on Zainu or fully on Koiful. I think a lot of this has to go towards Phony a little bit. Like you are the IGL. When things go great, you get the most credit. When things don't go great, you also have to share the lion's share of that blame. So I think I got to point out Phony and just say, yo, not the greatest performance from Space Station Gaming. And if you really look at it in the entire set of EWC, they really just didn't play well except for that one day. And Zainu really popped off. Like Zainu really popped off.
And even with that one day, they weren't doing too hot either. Like that last game really does. I know we said like one game doesn't really carry you. I guess they started off really well, but then like their middle of the pack games are kind of like looking concerning, and then they won the last game, which got them in. Yeah, man. Like I agree. Zainu and Koi are like everyone always has like a fragger and a fragger and like an anchor player, right? Mind you, I know when you talk to a lot of player or teams and like IGLs, that's not what they try to like just build their team around. Like obviously someone does need to play kind of like an anchor, but they want their players to be universal, to pick up any role, right? And so Zainu is like a top tier, like A S tier fragger in the scene, and then obviously we know Koiful is, right. So when you got those two guys and it comes down to like fighting, you think this would be one of the best fighting teams in the world. And so basically what I've started to understand is like Koiful, or not Koiful, Phony, like I have to go through and I'd have to review it myself. I don't want to make any claims, but what I've heard around is just like his macro wasn't on, and Phony, if his macro's not on, like he doesn't put up the same numbers and the same mechanics and the same ability as someone like Koi and Zainu. So like yeah, like he's got to really show up as like an IGL that's very knowledgeable, can get them into those game winning positions. And if he's not doing that, then yeah, they're not going to be playing well. And it's unfortunate because like yeah, like you said, on paper, a ridiculous team. You look at like their stat lines, like land placements for Phony, land placements for fucking Zainu. Dude's won a land. He's one of the few people to win a land. Like that's a team that should be insane, not a team that's dropping like 17th place in these lobbies. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it was a tough overall, I would say, tournament for Space Station, other than that one day. But yeah, it just wasn't going their way. I also can't just point out Space Station without also pointing out Fnatic, who's 1 point below them, or one placement below them, 2 points. Fnatic, it looked like, dude. I mean, first of all, they barely make it in to that first lobby, like their day in the group stage. They were like 8th place, and it was pretty close. And then I was just I don't know what it was about their team fighting. The one fight that comes to mind was when they tried to fight E8 in the Storm, where they had already killed Zach Mazer earlier in the match, and then they try to go into Storm to finish them off, and then lose somehow to a team that just called in a teammate. I don't know how that's happening if you're Fnatic. You know, their team fighting was really,
yeah, I
really
remember
off.
that. Yeah,
And it felt like every time they fought, they just never. You just felt like they never had a chance in those fights. I don't know if they were just taking bad fights. I don't know if their positioning was off. It seemed like every time you'd be like, all right, we're going over to Fnatic, there's already a guy down. So I don't, and it's tough because we can't even really go back and look at what what the problem was. But Fnatic was really struggling as well. So I'm interested to see from both of these teams going into Germany any changes that get made to whether it be composition. We have a brand new season, so there's probably going to be changes no matter what. But I'm very interested to see how they respond going into Germany.
yeah. I mean, the funny thing about that Fnatic fight you mentioned is, I can't remember which one of them it was, but like right after they get the kill off E8, just like at the top of his lungs, like you hear it ring through the arena, just woo, just like that, and then they push them and then immediately die. It's like that's funny.
Yeah.
Um, But yeah, it's I've heard from around the scene sometimes that they say Yuka is like one of the best players in the world, but just doesn't take the game seriously. The guy's like messing around, and because of that, like unfortunately, come up short. I don't know if like that could always be said. That seems like a little bit of a cop out excuse if that's the case. The consistency is weird. They go from not making finals at what was it, champs, and then split one playoffs. Like despite reject winning, they were unreal. Like they placed better than reject in groups. They placed better than reject in winners. They got first, reject got second or third, and then in finals they got third and reject won. And so it's just like that seemed like, oh my god, APAC North is on the up. Like rejects winning, and like they did good. Like they got fifth groups, like second winners, first overall, and then yeah, Fnatic also like top 5 overall. It's like, oh my god, like Fnatic's like the APAC North's on the up, and then you had CR not make finals because reject is now CR, Crazy Raccoon. Fnatic, like you said, like not do great, and it's just like what happened like in between that period of time, like between these two teams. And Fnatic, who so many people were calling them like the team to be one of the like super team killers, the god slayers, like had SSG and them up there as the only two teams in every tier list I saw, and then they dropped 17th, 18th. It's just puzzling. I don't actually have an answer.
Yeah. I guess you would say right now the region obviously that's on the come up is EU. And you're looking at EU and you're like, all right, well, they just won this thing, but that's not it. Like they had some really solid performances from a lot of teams throughout their region. And I'm interested to see how this plays out in the future because for a long time, I think APAC South has been considered that region that was like right below NA.
Mhm.
There's a argument to be made for EMEA right now, you know?
Yeah, they got the most teams in, even more than NA, which I think is like the first time NA's had like has not had the most teams in a final since like maybe Poland. So a lot of things happening. I hope that it wasn't just the format that like kind of helped these EMEA teams squeak in. I hope that we see at Germany here that they kind of continue that, and maybe the regions on the up. Because yeah, there's really really good things like FaZe. great team. Like I've loved seeing their come up on the recent front. Gaming Gladiators was pretty shocking. DMS
EXO.
was shocking. Yeah, Exo Clan. Um, EMEA is kind of like really inconsistent for me though, right? Like we got like Nask, who's one of the best in the world, who didn't make finals here and isn't going to Germany. We got Aurora, who isn't qualifying for Germany but placed sixth here and did amazing at like split one playoffs. We got so like the only team right now that I'm confident in that has been consistent is actually FaZe Clan. And one thing I want to quickly talk about is I wanted to get into like the points and about how this tournament like it ended off. Like I say, FaZe Clan is one of the most consistent. Like they finished 13th, right? And
Mhm.
that might not sound that good, but realistically, I think a lot of teams in that final lobby almost didn't get the position that I thought they almost deserved. And
Yeah.
maybe I'm wrong to say that because like it is an endurance thing, and I don't want to take it away from a team like LG who are
Liquid
like
comes to mind too.
like Liquid in 7th, right? And like or another one that comes to mind is Mizuchi getting 12th. Like Mizuchi getting 12th, they were one of the first teams on match point. And so
They won the first game of
exactly.
the
And like
day.
and hey, I was like I said, I was hyping up Mizuchi the whole time. So I had Mizuchi as a pick. When they won the first game, I was like, oh my god, am I finally on with something? Um, but like like I say that because 60 points. 60 points, I believe. I like a lot of people I think were thinking, oh my god, the reason that this match point final is going on so long is because of the fact that uh this is one of the most balanced lobbies we've ever had. I don't know if I actually agree. I think we've had much more competitive lobbies in the past. I think that the 60-point threshold made it that much more difficult to get to match point and then close out on it. Again, I've been wanting to do this math. I screwed up not having it done for this podcast. I should have had it, but I wanted to look into if 50 points was the match point, when would it have closed out? And I'm pretty sure Falcons would have won in like game 6 or 7. If that was the case, if 50 points was the threshold. So like that just shows like it doubled the points essentially, almost, or like doubled the games essentially almost. And so like if you asked me, what do you think? Like, who do you think was in first place? Like, name the standings off without having them right here. If it was right after the tournament, I probably would have told you, like, okay, well, obviously Alliance because they won, Falcons, then maybe E8, Mizuchi, and that's because like E8 was in first for like 4 games in a row at the
Dude,
beginning, and then like
bro,
like we said,
E8
Mizuchi
was
was top 3, like Liquid was top 3, like yeah,
yeah, the teams that would have been at the bottom, honestly, would probably have been like Luminosity. Like Luminosity was they didn't start off super hot, man. Like they if you told me there was the 13 teams, like in that example you just laid out, based on those first 6 or 7 games, I'm putting LG like way down there
that's
based
what I'm
off the
saying.
beginning of it, you know? Yeah, so I see where you're coming from with that.
So it almost
I also think too, when so many teams are on match point, you start to play way differently and you're not so much thinking about the point total anymore. You're more like, we can win it. And I think a lot of the teams that in the early games, like you talk about E8, Mizuchi, um, Liquid, Liquid was a team that I really feel like when it all closed out, I would have thought it was Alliance, Falcons, Luminosity, Liquid, and Liquid's down there at 7th.
mhm.
I feel what you're saying. But I do think they were all playing for a different style once there was that many teams there, and that's what led to the lack of point totals because teams were basically changing their entire genesis of how they were going to play these games based on how many teams were already slated to potentially just close the tournament out.
Yeah, totally, I agree. And because like it's a 7-point spread, Liquid, like they could go for points, but winning the tournament is also like going to get them up to like Alliance. They finished with second most points overall because winning the tournament got them also second most points overall. So, and like they weren't going to steal second from Falcons because so far. So the best they could have done is either win or get third. It almost felt like, right? So, yeah, it just felt really interesting. Like I think it was more so about like the match point. Not that this was like one of the most competitive or balanced lobbies. And I not to be like fucking mean to some of these teams, but right now, like there was a lot of teams that aren't going to split 2 playoffs that were in this lobby, like Aurora, like DMS, like Exoclan's there. I don't know if GHS is. I'd have to look into that, but Dragons aren't. Like there's a lot of teams that aren't going to be at the next land that didn't qualify through the last like 6 weeks of Pro League. And so that's why I can't really argue that this was a super competitive lobby compared to what we've seen at other lands when teams like have a whole split to qualify. But I think the 60 points. Now, with that, what's really interesting is there was advanced starting points here. And you got to remember on top of it, too, what made it really competitive, I think, is that 18 teams got advanced starting points. Going into this next ALGS, it's a 50-point threshold, but there's no advanced starting points anymore. So it should theoretically give the same effect because
Yeah, so I was thinking the same thing.
because Falcons would have been 51 points away from match point, and they were the team with the most points. Now every team has a base 50 points away from getting match point. The difference is they have like POI draft, and like top teams get the POIs they want. So I don't know if maybe that will like flip it. I mean, Falcons had the best POIs, and they didn't close it out right away, so they're not going to get better POIs in the POI draft system. So so like we might see the longer match points now with no advanced starting points. It's going to be interesting how Germany unfolds.
I want to bring up Team Liquid again, just because it felt like they had the position in 3 of these games. There was 2 barometer zones that I was like, oh my God, they're staring down at everybody. And remember, they get match point in like game 7, game 8. And so I'm like, they have a chance here. And then in the final game that Alliance wins, they take second. And they have to run out of that building. Super unfortunate that the Storm's on their back like that. I felt so bad for Team Liquid because I felt like they put themselves in the right spot, which in the last LAN, people were kind of roasting them for not having great positioning going into that finals day. They had good positioning here. They just kept having to move a little bit. It was like they were in the right spot, but just maybe a couple feet to the left or right of where they needed to be, and then it ended up screwing them over a few times. But Liquid, it sucks to see them at 7th because I really feel like they should be like 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like it felt like there was teams that kind of deserved to be up in the standings, but because it went so long, they gassed out by the end. Like I mean, like Walty tweeted out about it. Walty tweeted out about it. He said, "You know what? Like we had a chance to win, and when I choked the call on the win there, my brain was just mentally fried, and I gassed out, and I was trying to play different to just go for the win, and I just couldn't do it. And we fell down to 12th, but I don't think we deserved 12th. We could sit here and talk about there was so many, like Aurora had another chance to close out the tournament. They're on the height. They drop down on the solo. Bro, like it goes one more game. Their fucking social media manager is so funny. He like puts out a tweet, and then after the next follow-up tweet is, "Stop asking me why they dropped down. I'm just a social media manager."
Just a social media guy. I love those tweets so much. Dude, it was a crazy tournament. We could talk for hours about it because there was so many different storylines, but I think that would be a good place to put a stopping point on it. EWC, it is in the books. It was great. Congrats to Alliance for winning the tournament. Congrats to Jumbo for making it down there. It was awesome to see you on screen. It was great. Also, one last thing I got to shout out before we round this bad boy out. I just sent a rogue text. I was sitting at work watching EWC, and me and Jumbo Jayhawk were on that zombies kick, and I said, work these 3 zombies maps into your next segment. I don't get a response. So I'm like, all right, whatever. He's busy. And I'm just sitting there at work. I'm covering for somebody else. Like I'm covering at a table where mechanics come up to me to ask for parts, and I give it to them. Luckily, they had all just gone on lunch. So I'm basically just holding down the fort. So I get to just sit on my phone and I'm watching and just waiting. And I sent Buried, Origins, and
Revelations.
So I'm like, all right, I think he could get Origins pretty easy. I think he could get Buried pretty easy. Revelations might be tough, but I also think he could get that too. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, but he didn't respond, so whatever. They kick it to Jayhawk, and his first segment, he doesn't say anything. And I'm like, damn. Then it goes back to Jayhawk again, talking about the rankings, the leaderboards. And Jayhawk is like, yeah, they're going to have a tough time because they're buried down at the bottom of this leaderboard. I jump back in my chair. I'm like, maybe that's a coincidence.
Yeah, maybe it's a coincidence.
And then he's like, yeah, we're looking for a few teams here. Maybe TSM can have a revelation. Oh, he's doing it. And then because you guys are on a 10-minute delay, I hear the revelations and I get a text from Jayhawk. He's like, I couldn't fit Origins in there. I'm still watching thinking there's a chance he could get it. So it kind of burst my bubble of being able to watch the final part. But shout out Jayhawk for
Yeah, dude,
trying to get it in there.
we were chatting about it after because he goes to me, he shows me the text. He goes, "Did you watch it?" And like, it was so tough to like hear in our room sometimes, and sometimes you get into conversations mid break, so we wouldn't really like hear what they say. I'm like, no way, and I had to go back to rewatch it. He's telling me that, and I was like, "Did you? I'm like, what'd you get?" He's like, I wasn't gonna do it. He's like, I wasn't sure I was gonna get shit. He's like, but then after, he's like, suddenly he's like, oh, he's like, I can get these pretty easy though. He goes, and he's like, man, he's like, if Wyatt texts me like even 5 minutes earlier, right? Which I guess you wouldn't know because like the delay. But he goes, if Wyatt texted me even 5 minutes earlier, he goes, so I could have given more thought. He goes, I could have easily got Origins in there, right?
Yeah, he texted me immediately. He was like, I could have got Origins so bad.
Because as soon as he walked in, I hit him with like, I hit him with like, I'm like, yeah, you could have said something like for a team like, could this be the Origin their comeback? And he's like, oh my god, like yeah, that would have been so easy to get in there. He's like, I could have straight up said something like, could this be like the Origin their comeback or this and that? He's like, yeah, I could have did it. But then the funny thing is, like, we were sitting there and we're like, what other words could we have got in? And suddenly we're like, honestly, a lot of the perks are pretty easy. Like Juggernog, like saying actually like Juggernog wouldn't work, but Juggernaut might if that's fair. But like, let's cut that one out. Quick revive, easy. Double tap, that could be done. Stamina up, easy. Like we could get all those because like it's like this is a 10-game lobby. You know, like teams really need to get their stamina up and see if they can go the endurance, go the distance, right? It's like, or even if you're talking about match point, it's like quick revive is so simple. It's like, oh, this team was doing that. They hit the quick revive. They put like, and then same with double tap. It's like, oh, you know, he got in there, hit the 1-2 double tap, finished him off, and went moving on. Like we're like, oh, these would be so easy to get in there. So we started thinking about it all. Ben, the producer, was kind of aware of it after, though. I don't know if Jay wanted to risk it anymore.
No, I felt like that, and then I was gonna. So the text I sent him after, I was like, "Good job, bro. I just heard it. All right, now work these in. These should be a little easier." Nocturne Toten, Zetsubo no Shima, Drak. I was like, "You got this, easy." And then the next day I texted him quarterback names, but I was talking to him about it because it was super easy. It was like Hertz, Carr, and Love. Super. It would have been so easy to throw those in there, and he was just like, "It would have just been too easy." I was like, "Yeah, I should have stuck with zombies maps," but I wanted to shout out Jayhawk for doing that. I also wanted to shout out the broadcast because it was awesome.
Yeah, I laughed when he came back and was like, after the next one, I'm like, did you get Zetsubo? He's like, nah, man, couldn't find a spot for Zetsubo. Like,
I couldn't find it. It was tough. But yeah, so it was an awesome tournament. It's great, and it's great that we're going to be having this hopefully moving forward because it really does. Like we said, we love our ALGS. We love our format for ALGS, but it is nice to have something a little different. I get the players not loving it as much, but it is nice to have something a little different from the viewer perspective.
I mean, I don't want to get overhyped about it, but I guess it is public. The guy who like books creators and brings them out and everything like that on Twitter already said to me, "See you next year." So
let's go.
I know that like there's gonna be I know there's gonna be Apex next year.
Live podcast. Fly the boy out?
Fly you out? Yeah, sure. Sure, if you want to pay for your ticket. I don't know if we'll have it like that next year.
No, I meant him. Like, let's get the whole pod out there.
Try to get the whole pod out there, huh?
Let's get the whole pod out there. We'll record live right after. It'll be like episodes of The Bachelor where they go straight into with all the people in the room and they're just roasting each other. We'll do that. We'll have something like that going afterwards.
I'll hit up my guy. Yeah, we could probably steal some of the.
You got a guy. You're a guy now. You have a guy for this.
I have a guy
which
for
is
this.
All we need.
Which is
It's great. It's awesome. Well, ladies and gents, thank you guys for listening to our rambling and closing out EWC. Shout out Esports World Cup.
Really excited on this podcast. I feel like I was really yappy and really excited this time. Like
those are the best. You know what's like a key ingredient for a good podcast is talking a lot. And we did that today.
We did.
We did that today. Ladies and gents, we should be getting back pretty soon to our regularly scheduled content with interviews, back with Enoch. Enoch, I haven't talked to him yet, but I'm pretty sure he got number 1 and number 1. But
no way. Oh, I gotta go check
it.
That. He actually.
I think he got it.
That's sweet.
So we should be getting back to all that soon, and also we can start breaking down season 22 and how it can affect Germany moving forward and the rest of the competitive scene. So we'll have all of our regularly scheduled content coming up soon. Thank you guys for tuning in. As always, we appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. This should be closing up our EWC coverage. Thank y'all for listening. Thank y'all for tuning in, and see ya.